they may leave the room saying, like, oh my God, I didn't take a step forward on that one line, or I forgot this one word. I'm like, none of that matters. There's so much beyond that. So I think it's always going into your audition, submitting your self-tape and honestly forgetting it ever happened.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Hassiem Muhammad, and you are listening to The Actor's Instrument, Tools for the Long Game. On the show, we cover a lot of actor pain points, from the celebrity casting crisis to how to get an agent to what should my headshot look like, right? And this episode is no different. Today, we're going to discuss the influx of IP-driven media going from Hollywood and TV screens to our Broadway stages. And here to help me do that is Jason Thinger from the Jim Carnahan Casting Office. This office cast the 4-time Tony Award-winning play Stranger Things, The First Shadow, both last year and this year's Best Revival of a Musical Productions with Merrily We Roll Along and Sunset Boulevard, as well as Broadway mainstays Moulin Rouge and Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Jason, thank you so much for joining me.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Back to back with the best revivals.
I didn't even realize that fact before you said it, but it's been the revivals are right up our alley around here.
That's pretty impressive stat right there.
Yeah, it's good. There's always a lot of pressure delivering the revivals. Everyone always knows what they are coming in,
Sure. Is there any, with that pressure, do you guys kind of focus on looking back at the original and trying to replicate, or is it more of taking the approach of, hey, it's a revival, but it's going to be new?
I think it totally depends on the producer and the director and kind of the reason why that show is being made at that time. Something like Merrily, kind of notoriously was a flop leading up to this production. So there wasn't as much to, there was a mold to it, but this was kind of the first chance for this generation to really fall in love with this show and to really attempt to make it a proper commercial success. A lot of which thankfully had relied on the cast. And then something like Sunset Boulevard, it was a total reimagining of it. So you kind of throw everything about previous productions totally out the window, and now we're in the world of Jamie Lloyd's head, which is kind of goes against the grain of what everyone thinks it's going to be. Yeah. So kind of referencing back earlier productions does you no good. So it kind of depends on the team and what vision they have for it. And I'm always I like the reimagining in a way, because you kind of get to create a new. It's almost like creating a new thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even compare it to anything before.
And I feel like it also helps you to not flex, but show off your aspect of the craft.
Yes.
Right. And the people who you imagine and picture in this thing, and you're like, hey team, you should see this person. I think it'll be different, but trust me.
Yeah. No, you can have more fun with it. When there are certain things that follow a more traditional point of view on it. Like we did Funny Girl a few years ago, kind of tried a few new things with casting. But ultimately Funny Girl is Funny Girl, and everyone is expecting to hear Barbara Streisand sing the score. So there's only so much flexibility you can have with that kind of thing. I've been doing Little Shop off Broadway for the last 5 or 6 years, which honestly, the intention of that production was to kind of honor the original production, and everyone wanted to keep it off Broadway in a really small theater and kind of keep that intimacy. And now it's been running for 5 or 6 years now, and kind of relies on that revolving door of casting, which is always every 3 months. I'm recirculating the list and coming up with new ideas and kind of trying to find. I think there's so much freedom in that show. Actually, the show just kind of works so well on so many different types of people. The fact that you can go from Jinx Monsoon to Sarah Hyland to Sherry Renee Scott within the same year is just kind of crazy, and that they all work and offer a different point of view on those characters and kind of changes the story, but it always somehow with that show works.
Nice.
So that one's always a fun one to revisit and see what else, what different audiences we can get with each new pairing. We kind of cater to the theater audience. We open it up to the drag race audience. Recently we had Milo Manheim and Liz Gillies, and kind of opening it up to a whole younger audience. So it's nice to do those that you can just kind of have fun with and take some risks.
Man, I didn't think about it until you just said this, but it makes me think about, when a TV show ends up running a little longer than people expected. And then all of a sudden there's more pressure than there was initially.
Yes.
Because it's like, well, now we have and with TV, it's different, obviously, because it's not the same show every night. But I imagine a similar pressure of people are still interested, and let's keep them while we have them. Because, as we see on Broadway, and I'm sure your office has experience, like, nothing's guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to stay.
You are not. Things go much faster than you ever think they're going to.
Yeah.
So it's it's a pretty real industry in that way. There's lots of turnover, which sometimes is things have their life and on to the next new thing. Yeah. Every show that closes is making room for the next one to come in.
Yeah, yeah.
You kind of roll with the punches.
Now, something else I noticed about your office. So we've got Stranger Things, Harry Potter, Sunset Boulevard. I know everybody doesn't work on every show, but I'm like, okay, these are all based off of previous IP, and not just existing IP, but IP from a different medium. Can you take us through the process of casting one of those shows? Because I imagine it's similar with the revival. Like, people know and love these characters already, but like a much larger audience. Harry Potter. Even Sunset Boulevard. That's a hit. That's a classic.
Yeah. Luckily, by the time I was working on Sunset, it already had many incarnations as a musical. So we were kind of always going off of the musical.
Okay.
And then, I don't personally work on Stranger Things or Harry Potter, but I know, they have such devoted fan bases that are expecting a very specific thing on stage. Mm-hmm. And kind of know those, they know Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. They know, they have these very distinct images in their mind. So I think it's finding a way to kind of give the audience what they want in what they're familiar with, but then kind of turning it on its head and giving it a completely different point of view. And I think what has worked out so well with both of those shows is that it wasn't actually taking Harry Potter's, book 1, 2, and 3, 7 of them, right, putting those on stage. It was kind of then fast forwarding 20, 30 years and having their children be the leads of the show. And that's right. So it kind of gives you, it's harder to compare, which I think is actually a good thing. There's a familiar title and a familiar world and story that you're telling, but there's kind of fresh faces. And with Stranger Things, they went, 20, 30 years before and kind of played off of a little bit of the of what the show was doing, of kind of flashing forward. And there's a few character names that we heard through the later seasons but now they are the center point of the show. And then there's kind of the Easter eggs dropped in of, a young Joyce, young Winona Ryder. So you kind of you're like, oh yeah, that's, so there's a little bit that you can kind of latch onto there. And same thing with Harry Potter. And I think luckily with Harry Potter, they've kind of taken some of those characters and evolved them into kind of a 2025 lens.
Well, no, is like color conscious casting in Harry Potter, which feels like a risk to me. Because you have people who, they are just, if you change anything about that story that they love, they lose it.
Luckily, it seems like I think it's gone over very well. It's still running in London. It's still running here, and they've kept the casting. Hermione has always been played by a Black woman, and I think it'll always be that way. And the way it's written now and the way she delivers it just feels so right, in this current format. And I think hopefully a majority of the audience is able to just kind of go along with that and roll with it.
Yeah. And obviously I'm Black, so I was like, oh, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
But like, as somebody who grew up on the Harry Potter franchise, when I went to see the show, it genuinely didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter. It's but beyond the fact that it's a made up world to begin with, like, these aren't historical figures. First of all, we could say that much. But it genuinely didn't matter. And I think what you said is really important, which is because the story is different enough, it helps. Like, I wasn't actually expecting to watch like Ron, Harry, and Hermione, like in the Sorcerer's Stone, doing their thing. And so you can suspend that disbelief, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, yeah.
The rest of the audience is going to go along with you.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's worked.
Heard. Do you think we should, and I know you're in casting, you're not on the producing side, but you're in these rooms. Do you think we should expect more projects like these that come from the West Coast over onto Broadway?
I mean, I think so. I think the audiences just kind of always want to go with what they're familiar with. We've had such an influx of movie to musical, or in those cases, movie to play adaptations. And I think we've learned some work better than others,
Mm,
and some of that's the creative team involved. Some of that's how timeless the story is. Some of it's crazy that a Harry Potter or a Stranger Things could ever work on stage. Like, but then actually taking all the things that are so impossible, all the special effects and everything like that,
yeah,
that you would think would be so impossible to do on stage. And then when you see it on stage, you're like, oh my god, that was amazing.
yeah,
There's no CGI, and there's no special effects to take care of it. It's all just like totally reliant on stagecraft. And that's kind of always what's like attracted me to theater. Is like I appreciate film and television, but theater's always kind of been what I connect to, because you see it happening live in front of
mm,
you, and like the design team, the directors, they all have to come up with a solution that can happen 8 times a week right in front of your face. So
right.
I think it's a nice challenge, um, but I don't think it'll stop. I think there's so many of the kind of film studios that have deals with all these producers to produce a whole line of movies. So, and I think
Hmm.
so many of them, they've been in development for years, and I'm sure we'll continue to see them. So I don't really see
Yeah.
that going away. But I think it's not dissimilar to so many movies and TV shows come from books. So it's kind of that book to screen to stage pipeline, I think,
Yeah.
works so well, and then back on to screen for movie musicals.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think it's here to stay.
Yeah.
And I think people's opinions on it kind of fluctuate. And I think, like I said, some work better than others. I think
Hmm.
it's all about how you adapt
That's fair. That's fair. And personally, I mean, like, I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Honestly, I love it because these shows, when done well, do really well. And some means more work, and like you said, that revolving door, and so now we got the Harry Potter tour, and it's like, okay, cool. So that's a whole other cast that's going, and yeah, I think it's overall positive.
it. Yeah, no, I think so. Gets the people's butts in the seats. That's all
Yeah,
that
that's all
matters.
that matters. That's all that matters. Now you work on a lot of musicals. You said you're the guy in the office that handles the musicals. And you teach musical theater.
A little bit,
Like
yeah.
a little. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I always say teaching, and I'm like, how much am I really teaching? It's a lot of a lot of my classes are, people come in with their book of music, and I
Hmm.
just kind of have them like, let's sing through it. I'll get to know
Hmm.
you as a performer through your book. I always love hearing like what people's go-to songs to sing, like what their taste in music is. What like you can
Hmm.
get such a vibe from a person off of just what's in their book, and kind of what taste they have. And I try to give them a few notes. Try to say, oh, you should add this in. You should check this out. You should, maybe retire that one. Pick and
Hmm.
choose when you use this one. So I try to guide them along.
That sounds like great advice because I had a manager on recently, Chichi Anyanwu,
Mhm.
who I'm sure you work with.
Yes, yes.
And she was saying that she'll have clients come to her and they're like, hey, I want to go in for this thing. And she's like, okay, well, let's look at your reel.
Mhm.
And then she's like, well, nothing in your reel suggests that that's the thing you can do,
Right.
which then makes your job harder
Yes.
because you're just trying to believe them. And she's like, I swear they can do this.
Yes.
But you're like,
I know. Sometimes until you see people on the material from the show you're working on, you can't really tell. There's every track, every show. Every show kind of, we always say like, oh, they're not really in the world of this show, or you know, and that's just kind of like every show has a general vibe of people. I have a vibe, you have a vibe, the show has a vibe. Like, and if you kind of want all of those to align, so until we kind of hear you do the material from the show, it's hard to kind of get a sense of if you're in the same rhythm of the show. The way you read a side, like there's a rhythm to every side you read, and if you're not kind of getting those rhythms, that time period, that comedy, whatever it may be, it's really important to kind of just see them on the material. Sometimes you find the best. There's lots of things where we'll offer things before we go into auditions. But then if you're auditioning, sometimes you discover some amazing things and some amazing people who brought things out of the material that you never even knew were possible, or you learn. So like, there's so many directors who learn a lot about the show through the casting process, and finally hearing people actually read the script or, sing the music, and figuring out the dynamics of the world, how many people they need, what each person can offer. So it's definitely a process.
Heard. Now, I want to talk about these people who bring things out that maybe you didn't see initially. If you could narrow it down, right? Like the people that come in and just kind of blow you away, like consistently, this person comes in, they do this thing. What do those actors have in common? What are the qualities that they share? Because, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people can sing. Like that's, and because I don't do musicals, I often am a reader in the room for musicals because it's not like a conflict of interest. I'm like, I'm not going in for it.
Yeah.
And I remember, it was choir boy auditions, and like so many guys could sing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's no shortage of amazing singers out there.
Yeah. So
actors,
right. So what the ones that stand out? What is it? What do they have?
It's hard to answer this question, or hard to give a specific answer, because sometimes someone just walks in a room and there's an energy that changes in the room, or they just have a star quality, and like you can't put words to star quality. It just kind of, there's something just kind of exuding out of them that makes you want to watch. And everyone's always like, what can I do to stand out? And I was like, you can't do anything to, like, stop trying to stand out. Just be you. Like I did a lot of, when it's kind of showcase season, we meet with a bunch of students, and I did one where there was kind of like a round robin of, you talk to every student for, minutes, and every single one of the students asked me, what can I do to stand out? And I just kept saying, don't try to stand out. Because we can feel you trying to fit into a mold of what we're looking for, or you trying to set yourself apart. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do other than like be you, and go in and use your voice to sing that song. And hopefully, and it's amazing. There's some amazing singers that when they get put on a specific song, it just like didn't sound as good as you would have thought, or it just doesn't like sit in the right place of their voice, or, like I said before, every show has a world, has a vibe, has, rhythms to it. If all those things don't align, that's not your job. We've discovered some amazingly talented people out of a process that we never cast in that specific show. But you're kind of like, wait, you're amazing. You're not right for this, but I can't wait to find you the next thing.
Yeah.
But so it's an indescribable quality. And then every once in a while, someone just comes in and sings the shit out of it, and you're like, well, there's,
you're getting a call back.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's hard because, and I think different tracks, you have to prioritize different things. Are we looking for the voice here? Like, is this really a singing heavy track? Is this really an acting heavy track? Do we really need someone to look a certain way? Do we really need So it kind of totally depends on what you're looking for.
Well, Jason, I'm hearing a few things here. I know you said like it's hard to like pinpoint what the thing is, but what I'm hearing is one, like be yourself, which is a thing people could maybe do better. I feel like most actors, we spend so much time trying to be other people.
Yes.
Sometimes
yes,
it's like Jason. I notice like sometimes I'm hanging out with people and I'm sitting somewhere and I'm like, I don't sit like this. And I'm like,
right.
Why am I sitting like this? And it's like so much of my time is spent like working on sides and being other people. I mean, today I went in for this audiobook audition, and it's about these kids from Sudan, and I didn't know if they wanted an accent or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working on the accent, and then I get in and I asked them, and they're like, "No accent." And so then for me to turn that off was like, I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I was like, "Okay." I was like, I know I have a voice. I could just go back to my voice.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is like, be yourself. With Katarina, I mean, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that she's out there doing cabarets and not just
people in the strangest place. Not that cabaret is a strange place, but we find people everywhere. I mean, I see so much on Instagram. There's so many people that I just find that other people repost if they post things on whatever algorithm is working on my feed. I pay attention to that and try to really find people where in any corner of the universe they may exist. And those are the most exciting moments, honestly, is when you're kind of like get to discover someone. That's my kind of not selfish, but it's like
that's what you do.
You can kind of take you could say, hey, I found that person.
yeah.
And they're all talent, they all have their own talent and they clearly exist, as their own being, but to kind of be a part of their story and their journey in some way is always exciting.
Absolutely. And man, I mean, it sounds like your job you don't ever get to just turn it off.
No.
You're just on TikTok like, she could do this.
It's so hard to turn this off. And, and every piece of media you watch in some way is continued education for this job. It's hard to go home and I've kind of resulted like my guilty pleasure is reality TV because it's almost the furthest thing from my job.
Right.
And, before we know it, all these reality TV stars, it becomes relevant.
Yeah.
I'm working on a show right now that like they want to kind of do something with, there's kind of a housewives spin to it where they really want a housewives. So like, well, you got the right guy.
Wow.
But now watching the Housewives, I'm like, damn it. Research. It becomes research.
Yeah.
So it's hard to turn it off, but it keeps it. There's worse things I can do than watching TV or listening to music or whatever.
Right.
Reminded of my job. So
right. Now we go from those qualities that make actors stand out without trying to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
The inverse. Are there like common pitfalls you see, and specifically with musical theater, like folks coming into the audition room?
I think people just overthinking it. I think, I mean, it's so hard to get out of your head in all of this. And I'm a terrible, whenever I have a job interview or when, and these are all essentially job interviews in a way.
Yeah.
I'm a nervous wreck. So I have terrible stage fright. So I'm like, I'm never envious to be on that side of it. So, but I totally understand how people just get in their heads and aren't performing at their best that day. And I wish I had some better advice to offer other than just chill out and relax. Because if the number of times people have told me to chill out and relax, like it's not easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. But I also think just like a lot of the time, less is more. I think people try to overcomplicate things. I think people overthink things. I think people also, they come into the room, whatever happens that they may leave the room saying like, oh my God, I didn't take a step forward on that one line, or I forgot this one word. I'm like, none of that matters. There's so much beyond that. So I think it's always going into your audition, submitting your self-tape and honestly forgetting it ever happened is the way is the healthy mindset.
And it's so hard, Jason.
I know.
It's so hard to forget, especially when it's the thing that you're like, either I really like this, or like I keep a log of all my auditions, right?
Mhm. Oh
It's
no.
there's
I guess,
hundreds,
yeah.
and I don't do this regularly, but I have in the past. Like, just like, oh, let me go look back,
Mhm.
and you go, that would have changed my life. That could have changed my life. So it is hard to let go of, but I believe you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if we're in the room, like just so focused on booking the thing, then that means at least a part of us isn't focused on just telling the story.
Yeah. Well, and so many times people ask, feedback is a really tricky thing for us to give sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And unless I hear exact feedback from the team as to, what they did or didn't do wrong,
Sure.
sometimes it's just that someone else just was a better fit. It's not that you didn't sound amazing. It's not that you're not an amazing actor. It's not that, there's so many things that go into it. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it's just about that person was just that person for that job. And I strongly believe, and have to kind of tell myself in many areas of life, like everything happens for a reason. So it's just, even like I always think of the casting process of Merrily was, it seemed like, the three of them fell, Jonathan, Lindsay, and Dan, they felt so perfect. And we always knew that they were so perfect. But it actually getting to opening night off Broadway or getting to the opening night on Broadway was not an easy thing to do. Lining all the schedules, different personal life things, come into play. And there were so many moments where we almost lost one of them. But, just through various decisions and kind of navigating all of it, we knew that like these needed to be the people, and every life just had to kind of fall into place in order for that to happen. And then every track beyond that, there were many people that we discussed for the supporting roles, but I think at the end of the day, and maybe would have done it if it had all been happening at a different schedule, but like at the end of the day, I strongly believe we ended up with exactly the people who were meant to do that show at that time.
Yeah.
And it's what the world has to offer you.
Yeah. I actually had a couple friends in Merrily.
Oh yeah.
It's really awesome. Yeah. Christian Strange,
Oh yeah.
Vish,
That's
and
great.
actually Christian and I went to high school together.
Oh my god.
Uh,
Way back.
yeah, that's been my boy. So it was really cool to see, him make his Broadway debut. Okay, something else that I was wondering about, because I was like thinking about this conversation and the shows that your office has done, and I was thinking about Harry Potter. Um, a friend of mine who came onto the show, Samaria Nixon Fleming, um, she was talking about her Harry Potter audition, and I imagined this. So you're already laughing.
There's many steps to it.
Okay, that's kind of the question. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't remember the number, but she said it was like 5 or 6 rounds. And I know like maybe that's extensive for that show, but I know it's also typical of other Broadway shows for there to be many, many rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So one, why? And two, what are you guys, what is the team learning from round to round? Because usually we don't hear anything. It's
Right.
just come back again, come back again.
Yeah. Well, I think, for that show specifically, there's so many elements beyond just the acting. A lot of the tracks in that show, I mean, they might start with a self tape to make sure that you are the right actor that we're looking for. But then
Mm-hmm.
from those self tapes, they'll kind of invite the best in for a movement call, because the movement in that show is such an important component. So
Yeah.
then once you make it past the movement call, I think you then go to, then you go in and act for the team, I'm pretty sure. And then I think if you make it past that, there's a flying element to it. So you have to go and do a FOI test. So
Mm-hmm.
that, and then once you make it past that, I think maybe you're in final callback. So each of it is kind of narrowing it down, as to who
Sure.
could do all the things that they have to do. We
Mm-hmm.
try, I mean, it's hard because we try to be as respectful of actors' times as possible. And we try to flag when we're like, we've seen this person a lot. Like if we can't cast them off of the tape we have on file, or if you don't like them at this point, like let's save them the time. Let's
Sure.
explore different people. But sometimes it's just like, or if we're looking for replacements, if you made it really far the first time around, then we want to revisit you, but we also want to kind of see where you're at that current time, see how you compare to kind of the new candidates that are in the running. So there's so many things that go into it. On a few shows, if it's a show that's in development, if you're kind of if there's rewrites, like over at Just in Time, the character of Sandra Dee has totally gone through. It's been entirely rewritten basically since the first audition process, and we have new songs, new sides, new everything. So we just kind of want to see how that person will adapt to the new material.
Back to you, Jason. Again, not to blow smoke up your skirt, but I mean, it really is impressive. Like Merrily, Sunset, back to back. For the guy who initially got into casting, what do those moments mean for you? How have they affected you as a casting director as you continue to move forward in your career?
I think sometimes it doesn't fully hit me. If you told 15-year-old me what I would be doing right now, I would be over the moon, and I totally am over the moon. But there's also, it just kind of keeps rolling, and there's always there's another project coming that will you can't get too high and mighty about it. You can't get too excited because you're just kind of busy working on the next. And so much of the time, these things, you work on them, and then a year and a half later is when the world is seeing them, or when they're winning the Tony, or so you've already kind of lived the glory of that, and you're kind of just,
you're another thing potentially at the time. Yeah.
So I try to stop and be very grateful for where I am, and I feel like I'm exactly in the right place, in the right office, working with the right people. I love the creative teams I work with. I love, I always feel like I'm working on the things that I want to be working on. So I have to remind myself of that when I'm stressed, or when I'm annoyed, or when I'm whatever. No, this is really good. This is really good.
That's awesome.
But it's been a nice journey, but the anxiety of what comes ahead never really stops.
Sure.
And I mean, I always kind of actually get anxious about working, as I really look ahead to my future, working alone, or not working with the team I'm working with, because I think it really is a collaborative process with me and Jim work on everything together pretty much, and there's different parts of the process that I kind of spearhead, but then always having that sounding board to kind of problem solve. Or we were watching a bunch of tapes today where I'm I need someone else's opinion on this. And when and every once in a while there's a project of my own that they stress me out so much because you don't have that other person, that other opinion, and someone else's opinion is so valuable to me. So I try to just take it one problem at a time. Try to formulate my own opinion when I have to. But it's everything's a team effort.
I mean, you guys are doing a damn good job. So it's anxiety aside, it's working. It's working. If you could adapt anything from the screen to the stage, something that you would be the casting director on, what would it be? What would you what have you seen that you're oh my God, I would love to cast this in New York?
I rarely think about that kind of thing, because I always kind of leave it to what producer is going to take something, and
you start reality checking yourself.
I'm that's definitely not my job to come up with. At least for me, I mean, to kind of change your question slightly, I always think about revivals of different things that I would want to work on, and my favorite shows. I've always, A Dreamgirls is a dream of mine. I always wanted to do a chorus line. I'd love to do Into the Woods. I grew up, some of my favorite shows growing up, I was kind of in the Rent, In the Heights, Hair, Hairspray, that kind of line of shows that opened up from, the 90s into the early 2000s. Not that the revival was around in my teen years. but working on any of those things that really like got me into this in the first place would be, that's kind of always my dream is those shows that I have a deeper connection to.
Hey, listen, I feel like we could do another Dreamgirls now. How long is it? It's been a minute.
We're ready. We're ready.
We could do another one.
Yeah. I always think about also like I think I more think about like different musical artists that I would want to, you know, like I'm always like clearly like when the Lady Gaga musical comes around, I'm like I need to be working on that, you know.
That's me.
Or
That's
you
me.
know wherever Beyonce is, I'm you know I'm there. You know, those are basic answers, but those are the ones that I keep my eye on.
Yeah, they've got to do a Beyonce musical someday.
Like. You know, but also the challenge of doing that, like in many ways, like I need to be a part of it, but the responsibility and the
who's going to play Beyonce?
There's no, you know, there's only one Beyonce. There's only one Beyonce, so like they're hard, but I can't let someone else be working on it.
Exactly. I mean, if it's going to happen, somebody's got to do it, and why not you?
I got to do it.
Jason, thank you so much for coming on today. I know you guys stay busy over there, and so I appreciate the time that you've carved out. I'm looking forward to seeing the Beyonce musical on Broadway.
Working on it my whole life in the back of my head, you know.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you all so much for tapping into this episode of The Actor's Instrument. If you enjoyed this conversation with Jason, then you'll love a recent interview I did with manager Chichi Anyawu, so be sure to check that out. Major shout out to our co-producers and distributors over at Next Chapter Podcasts. Before you all go, make sure to give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening in, like this episode, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace.